happens that the Middle East become on the focus of imperial power. And here you see cartoon from that time, how different imperial power are looking into the Middle East in order to carve the influence on it by each other. So you have the collapse of the empire, and you have the interest of world power into the Middle East. At that time was Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and Austro-Hungarian Empire until now. So we have our region, but also we have very strong interfering from outside power that influence the Middle East until today. And what we see with it is the result of the war of First World War. The Middle East were divided by three agreements. One agreement that the British and French did with the Arab, that they will allow them to establish back the Arab country. The rise of nation state nationalism that came into the Middle East, that Arab Christian was the forefront of propagating a nationalism as a way and mean where all people, regardless of religious identity, are equal. And that were the pushing of that. The first book being printed in Arabic in modern area was the Bible, the translation to the Bible. Newspaper, books, theater was done by Arab Christian in Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Egypt. The second agreement was because the Middle East was divided, and the division that you see today, that been divided by imperial power until today, and that is the source of destabilization of the Middle East until today, because it's artificial border. And also I know in Africa, many of the borders has been done by external power that causing artificial border between tribes and people. So just go back, sorry. As you see, Syria and Lebanon were under French, and Jordan, Palestine, Egypt, and Iraq was under the British and the Gulf country. So at the same time with confronting modernism, globalization, two movements emerge in the Middle East. One, Arab nationalism, and second, political Islam, as a response to the weaknesses of the Muslim world and inability to compete with the West in the form of Muslim Brotherhood. There are many forms. There are forms that are coming to change, but also later some of the form of Muslim Brotherhood have resorted to violence in order to bring change. The third factor affecting us until today, and most of you hear and see on TV, the awful pictures are coming from Gaza, is the conflict between the Palestinian and the Zionist movement. The Zionist movement is a national movement of the Jewish people that emerged in Eastern Europe in order to address the bad persecution the Jews experienced in Eastern Europe, where they were not also allowed to immigrate it into the West, to America, to Canada, to England. The young people said nationalism is our problem, our solution, in order to keep our identity and our safety. And that common form in Zionism, in order to establish the state of Israel as a state of the Jewish people, but in the land where other indigenous people, the Palestinian, and hence you have a problem, you have a conflict. Zionism affected very much evangelical because part of Zionism, very strong political force, Christian Zionism, has a political clout and power, especially in Britain at that time, and also in America and other places around the world, that they gave religious, ideological, theological justification to the formation of the state of Israel. And that factor is leading and causing a lot of destabilization in our regions. And what we have with the formation of the Arab state by colonial power, with time, mostly military leaders took over, and so we have authoritarian regime there. As a result, we have the failure of the nation state. This is a huge problem for Christians in the Middle East, in North Africa, and other countries, where the nation state came to meet people, to answer to the need of people. The nation state enabled to help to assist the young people. And as a result, you have, like you drive in the street here of the city, you see a lot of young people sitting on the side. They are educated. Everyone almost has a telephone, mobile telephone. They can read, they can see, but they cannot find job. And the state is unable to form that. So we have a crisis, major crisis, breakdown state in Syria, breakdown state in Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, Yemen. But other side, we have prosperity and growth in the Gulf state. So this, the diversity and that. Also we have the issue in North Africa that some of the states are not as stable and having challenges, major challenges. I wish my brother Michael, Egypt with the population, with the hunger, with the poverty, educated doctors that can have income of $100 a month or $150, knowing that in Europe and America, for a visit, you pay $150, $200. That's a gap between the knowing and not knowing. So the next one, can we move the next one? Oops. What we see here on your right side, the diversity of different ethnic groups. One of the things when I travel in the state, many times the question comes, you Arabs. It's like saying, you Anglo-Saxon, or you African. Arab peoples are so diversity. And if you look in the list of people, Gulf Arabs are different than Arab in the North Africa. You have the Arabs, you have the Maziri, they have the different tribes. The ethnic diversity of the people of the Middle East and North Africa is a reality. And there is a rise and growth in affirming your distinct tribal, family, culture, and identity. Even so, there is overriding in many places. So if you look here into this map, including Sudan, this is another challenge between North Sudan and South Sudan, as you all know very well. But also we have issues. Look into the demography. You know, I was walking a year and a half ago with my wife, the Camino, the pilgrimage road from southern France throughout all northern Spain. And you walk through empty village to empty village to empty village. In Italy, the same things. In France, the same thing. Empty places. And so crowded here. Where are those young people going? We have a major challenge with the young people. The percentage of, in 20 years, the percentage, the growth of the population, it is a huge challenge. Do we as a church address, understand, have a plan, praying to meet the need of the young people? No. In many places. So this is another thing is the whole issue of female. And you have a society that if before females were not educated, in my society, Palestinian Christian women are more educated than Palestinian Christian men, and Palestinian Muslim women are more educated than Palestinian Muslim men. Women are educated, but they are also limited. There is a huge gender issue. Next. The economic of the Middle East. The economic of the Middle East is diverse. It's not the same. Different place is different area. Many times we look into the Middle East as failure in economic, but they have a horse economic power in the Gulf country that they choose different avenue, how to use the oil resources and the gas resources. The development that we have in the Gulf countries, it's unbelievable. Yes, there are issues of the gap between the rich and the poor. Yes, there are the immigrants, the workers that are not being met. But the people that are living there, the citizens of those countries are living well compared to other countries. The universities that's been developed, the education, the museum that's going on. So there is this huge gap of region economically, but also gender, but also we have in certain country, small group of people that have a lot of money and a lot of people don't. Some of the countries in the Middle East, we call them crony capitalism. That means you go to certain country and most people working for the government or the military. So you go to some office, government, and people are shuffling paper from one to others because the government, in order to have the loyalty to the people, employ more and more people. So there's no private sector. There is corruption that lead to that. And also very highly educated people that we have in the Middle East. It's unbelievable. I started lecturing in university 35 years ago, and today, 35 years ago, for example, most of my students were male. Now 80% of my students are female. And they are better in papers, writing, and all that. So we have highly educated people that don't know and find themselves. So we have a lack of civil society that exists right now in many countries of the Middle East. And as a result, if you don't have the lack of civil society, there is very hard to bring change into society, and the place where people meet are in the mosque or religious institution, and as a result, that opened people to religious political parties. So there's an alternative. The talented immigrate to the West. You know, I have iPhone 15. Do you know who invented it? And not American. You know who is the CEO of Google? Who is the CEO of the big country? Matter of fact, Palestinian Christian that went through Christian school in Nazareth, developed these things. He's the vice president of Apple. Our young people that are talented and educated are being drained from the Middle East to many other countries. There is a counter movement. The Gulf country right now are taking the talented people to the Gulf country. If you look for university, if you look for invention, if you're looking for things to happen in the next 10, 20 years, is going to coming from the Gulf country. The university are doing better. Let's move ahead. The next one. Christian in the Middle East. This is a photo. Sadly, it's not coming very well. This is the most distinctive Christian celebration in the Middle East, in the Church of Resurrection. You call it the Church of Holy Sepulchre. This is what we call the Sabbath of Light. Everybody goes there and waiting for the light to come from the tomb of Jesus. And the light is being spread by candles from one to one, and people take the light and go to every village, every city, every home, and lighting the home of each other. This is the day. It's really distinctive theological things that we evangelical need to remember. This is the day Jesus went all the way down and preached the gospel, brought the light to darkness. It's more important in the Eastern tradition than Easter Sunday. So in some way, many of us feel that we are so down. The power of God The light of Jesus will come and shine in those places that is so darkness, so that are power. So look what's happening here in the trends. That will be surprise to you very, very much. It is what we see in the end of First World War. We have major decline of Christians in the MENA regions. The reasons are, with the rise of nation state and every ethnic group want to have exclusivity, we have the massacre of the Armenian and the Syrian in Turkey. We have in Iraq, nation state were not good for us because did not allow diversity. So you see also Christian marry late, older, and bring less children. So we see the decline in Egypt, in Syria. The one of the decline that's happened the most in Iraq as a result of the Gulf War. It was the most ancient churches, does not. But to many people, you will be surprised where is the rise of Christianity in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf country. How many of you are surprised? Not only that, this is misleading to a certain level, because the Christianity of the Middle East is changing. If you had until now the majority of the Christian, the indigenous, right now we have immigrant Christians. You know, Sunday I went to church with my wife, and as we walked, we saw thousands of Filipino workers going to the church. So there is a change. Next, I don't have the time to go through it. What are our accomplishments? Our accomplishment is that we established churches, educational institutions throughout the Middle East, Bible colleges and seminaries like Bethlehem Bible College, the Baptist Seminary in Lebanon. We have organization. We have developed media like Sat7. We have good outreach on media in Arabic. We were able to contribute theologically. Middle Eastern Christian, MENA Christian are the theologically forefront theology of the land. Reconciliation, advocacy, contextual theology, theologies that meet the power, public theology. Most of the people don't know that, but the people on the forefront of those theological they are from the Middle East. It's very important. At the same time, the impact of Middle Eastern evangelical theology and advocacy on the West. What we saw in this crisis, we had crisis for a while, the big eruption of the crisis in October, that suddenly Middle Eastern Christian voices and theologically are at Christianity Today. 10 years ago, we were not there. Our voices were not there. The last one. The next one. Challenges that we have. We have a huge gap between the leadership and the laity. So what happened in our leadership, the pastors have developed position of privilege that for many of us, including myself, contradict the priesthood of all believers. And that is a challenge for us. Young people find themselves that they are more educated, men and women, than their pastors. Most of our pastors are old, my age and up, should retired. Are educated, most of them in the state, in the Midwest, in fundamental evangelical schools in the 70 and 80, when our young people went to the best university in America and Europe, and they're coming with questions, with challenges. Our pastors are unable to meet their need, to answer their need. I'm not going to provide answers, just saying it's big issues. Weak structure of leadership and accountability. As Dr. Murad was explaining to me, many of the home churches in North Africa, that because there's no churches, the people receive money and they bought houses on their names, and there is no structure of accountability of leadership. Compared to other churches like the Episcopalian Lutheran churches, there is a structure. We lack structure, and that become one-man show. And that is a big problem, not only in the Middle East, Also in many other countries, evangelical churches have a weak structure of accountability and also visibility about money in many of the churches. And that is not only that leaders, I agree very much with Steve, that there is no servant leaders, but we have a problem. The structure doesn't really bring people to accountability. Christian Zionism and prosperity gospel is very strong. The theological seminary, a lot of money is coming from America to the pastor to propagate. It's not only theology coming from those churches, but recently it's becoming more and more political than only theology and politics. They are promoting political agenda, mostly from the state, on our people. Financial dependency on the West. This is another issue. And also colonizer is a very good book by Frantz Fanon. He was from Jamaica. He was a psychiatric doctor that he worked in Algeria during the Civil War. I'm not saying that we need to agree with everything he said, but he wrote a book called Black Skin, White Mask. Many of us, we thought and we took upon ourselves white mask, but inside we are Middle Eastern, we're African, we're different, we feel different, we eat different, we think different, and we also do ministry differently. And that is tension, huge tension that we have right now in the church. We need to have prophetic voices. Our church is dependent on the state. So in some country, like even Syria, for example, the church is not prophetically challenging the power that is abusing people. Because the powers give us protection. Because the power give us ability to do business. Because the power not helping us. And the last one that I'll say, this is something very much upon my heart. We as evangelical, we have developed, and we are very good in explaining Jesus to the larger majority society in the Middle East and North Africa. Talking about explaining the gospel to Muslim. But we fail in two areas to incorporate believers from majority culture, Muslim believers background, into the church. Culture, fear of their coming for money, fear of retaliation from authority or from their family more. But we did not treat them as equal. And chapter 2 in the book of Acts is very important. We're not treating them equally. We don't treat equally our women. Our women that can manage bank, but we come to the church, they can do food for Sunday school. We don't give them room. We are not incorporating those two important elements. And the second one, that we're weak, we're not, matter of fact, we are an obstacle. Even so we're not able to incorporate them into our churches, we are not allowing them to develop their own churches with their own culture, with their own issues that they need to do that. This is big challenges. And the last things I would like to read this. Therefore, this is my hope. I'm coming from war zone. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. Is God is doing a new creation. It's a language of Genesis. We join what God doing is a new creation. The old has gone, the new is here. All this from God who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That God was reconciling not us as individual, God reconciling the world, his creation. All people God is reconciling to himself. And he is committing to us a message, and we are his ambassador. So more than any time else today in the MENA region, we need to be the ambassador of him. Even so, sometimes ambassador get killed but we need to do, because we know death is not the end, because there is something beyond death. That's what the early church of the Middle East believed. That the church that from Jerusalem believed. And when they went out with the message of the kingdom of God, the world was not the same again. Thank you.